You think it's something constructive to say? Because if you can, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, all right. Why don't you play two people up front instead of one?
Two, okay, anything else?
Yeah, you could switch Rob out in the left flank and the right, because he's a lot more... So go back into the attacking midfield role, right? Danny drops back and he shores up defence. It's easy. It would be nice to see Messi make some of his jinking runs into the box like he does for his club. That's it. Rufus and Fairbrother alongside each other up front, you've got an effective partnership of strength and skill.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
It's the World Cup, motherfucker.
Yeah, just been watching USA Netherlands. It looks like
USA getting dicks. I love America. Love American movies, but I do not want them getting into football because they eventually become the best at everything, and the thought of them winning the World Cup would just be a horrifying prospect.
it's true. I mean, they tried valiantly against Netherlands, but
They're really good.
their time has come. Yeah.
So today we're talking about 2001's Mike Bassett, England manager. I fucking love this movie. Never seen it before. You were the one who wanted to do it because obviously it's the World Cup right now.
Yeah, I wanted to do kind of like a football film, but I also wanted to do something funny as well. Like I didn't want to do like I don't know. I can't really think. I know we've done Escape to Victory.
Yeah,
But I
great
don't-
movie.
I mean, there's another shit one called Mean Machine, which is basically the longest yard but football. And I was thinking, do you know what? Like what? And there's another one, Shaolin Soccer or something.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, that one's pretty funny.
But there's not a wide selection
No,
of good sporting movies in general, but especially outside of American sporting movies. So this was a big surprise. And I didn't realise this was apparently based on a TV series originally. And I had no idea it was a mockumentary or how goofy it was going to be. I remember seeing it come out at the time, but I wasn't actually that into football back in 2001. And something about it, I just didn't want to go see it. But I was fucking cracking up. Like, you know when you're kind of thinking, how am I going to feel about this? And when I put it on yesterday, within a minute in, I was cracking up laughing, and it just set the tone for the rest of the film.
yeah, it stars Ricky Tomlinson as Mike Bassett, who I've always loved in a British sitcom, Royal Family.
Yeah.
I've always liked him as like that kind of. I don't know. You know when you just watch a program and you just as soon as you see someone, you're like, that guy.
He's not so much an actor, but he's a persona. He's a personality, and he's always going to be the same guy in everything he does. But he can still play different things. Like he's more, his personality is a perfect fit for certain roles, and he's a perfect fit for this, where he's your northern, salt of the earth football manager. No pretenses about him, and he gets the dream job. Kind of reminded me of the real life Sam Allardyce situation of Sam Allardyce, the big old school hoof it upfield dinosaur tactics sort of manager. Kind of a misunderstood guy because he was actually pretty forward thinking. Once upon a time, he was one of the first people to bring stats into the Premier League in English football. But he got the job. He ended up getting fired after one game for, what was it, tax evasion or something? Something dodgy anyway.
He got done in a sting for basically like taking what we call bungs, like money for stuff, and he's actually got the best record for an England manager ever.
100%.
Yeah, one
conceded
game,
no goals.
Ever. One game, one win, and he's gone. But the actual feel of the film, you get it like straight away because it starts off with him at Norwich, isn't it? I think, and he wins like some unheard of cup. The name I can't remember, but it just cracks me up as well. And they're doing an open top bus parade, and it's very Spinal Tap-esque, like the way the bus driver essentially takes a wrong turn at the roundabout and they end up on the dual carriageway
and they're freezing because it's an open top bus,
and they get back like he like spins round at the roundabout and their hair's all sticking up, like, so it really sets the tone. Like it really made me laugh straight away, and I was like thinking, I just really like mockumentary films. Like
it's great as well because it really captures it's not about football on the pitch so much. Like any good sports film, it's not really about that. It's about being a fan of football at the international level, but also specifically an England fan. Everything that goes along with that, all the stereotypes, all the stigmas, all the lows, highs, mostly lows if you're an England fan, especially like unless you're about 80 and you remember 1966, but also about what it means to be England manager. You know, Mission Impossible, a horrible, horrible job. Southgate is the current England manager, if you don't know much about football, is hated, and he's the most successful England manager since 1966. It's a job that you get vilified by the press. Like it is disgusting the way some of the press treat them, and it was probably worst during this period in the 2000s. I feel like the press have been forced to get a lot better in the way they treat individuals. But they would, the way they would mock you, they would literally just have a picture of Roy Hodgson, a manager a couple of England managers ago. He got the job. The man happens to have a stutter, has a great career behind him. The first thing all the papers make fun of the next day is his stutter.
Yeah,
like it's ridiculous.
Like obviously England are called the Three Lions, and it's always the Sun.
The Three Lions.
Yeah,
the
Sun's the worst. Like, and it's always like the Lions stutter like Roy. Everyone's like, for fuck's sake.
It's absolutely atrocious. And also another thing for context is the FA, which is kind of the official organisation in England that runs everything and makes all the decisions for the national team, they're run by idiots, and they're run by people that don't really understand football even. So they always fuck it up. They always make the dumbest decisions. And it captures that perfectly in the opening scene where you see them trying to decide who is going to be the next England manager, because the last one suffered a terrible heart attack. And you see them going through the list, and they're thinking, any foreign managers, any actual good ones? And they're like, nah, no one wants to do it. And they're like, shit, we're going to have to get an English manager. And as they're going through the list of deciding like who's going to do it, all the reasons are mostly political.
No, there's one where basically... And it's kind of like a known thing within, like, discussed between football fans. A lot of the time, the FA would always hire what's seen as like a yes man, who they can kind of like puppeteer and control. And it's like, it's quite funny because they're discussing it in this, and they're like, this guy, and he's like, no, he's too free-spirited, his mouth's too big. And then we don't know how it actually... They must have gone for about 20 people, because the next scene... You see the press interviewing Mike outside his house. He's like, for fuck's sake, I've told you 10 times I've not got the job. And in this scene, it's exactly what the press are like. They literally camp outside people's houses. Anything to do with the England job or football in general, they just go mad for it. And then gets a phone call, and it's his long-suffering wife, I think. She's like, Mike, you've got an England job. And he's like, fucking hell.
Yeah, it's his son that brings it out, and he's going...
Oh, his son, yeah, sorry.
He's going, like, I'm Norwich through and through, I'm here to stay, I'm this, that, and the other. And then his son tells him, he's like, fuck it, yes.
Yeah,
and he just slams the door on him.
Straight away, like, you kind of really like Mike Bassett. Like, as you said, you can see he's like... kind of like a working class guy, and like he's not arrogant, but he's just stubborn. I think he's just stuck in his ways. I think
that's exactly what it is. And he's like, in a comedy like this, he's the perfect hero to get behind, because he's a buffoon. It's like you said, he's old school, he's old fashioned. It's the kind of things like, if you're following a football team and you love a football team, you want to play the great football. You want to, you want your team to be the best team in the league. You want it to be like playing beautiful football. But no matter what, you would never want those sort of old school Brexit-y sort of hoof it up the pitch, old school tactics, get stuck in sort of managers to die out, because you love them. Like, I refuse to believe you can really love football, at least English football, and not appreciate that sort of manager and that sort of football. And that's what he represents. It's also, it's an underdog story as well, which is always easy to get behind, because pretty much from his first game, the whole country, all the English fans and all the media turn on him straight away because things don't go their way. England have 3 games left to qualify for the World Cup. They only need to win 1 game or get at least a draw if things go perfectly in the rest of the group with the other teams that are playing. They end up getting absolutely battered in their first 2 games.
Yeah.
And the press are turning on them big time. Most of the press is represented by Phil Jupitus, who kind of does ask most of the questions. He spearheads the role of the media being a dick towards him, being pretentious, nearly rooting for England to lose, because that's a big thing in the country, that the press, they want to feed off the negativity and paranoia and insecurity of the English football fan, that we're shit and we're gonna be shit, and they're waiting for the first stumble so they can start going on about this.
Well,
you don't think we can beat Argentina?
I can't say, can I? I mean, what do you think?
Well, you're the England manager, Mike, not me.
I know, but you're asking me to predict the future, so I'm asking you.
It's not for me to say it.
No, come on now, smart ass. You put your neck on the line. Can we beat them, yes or no?
No, we can't.
And what do you think?
No, I don't.
Do you think we can win, Tomo?
It's not
And
gonna
what
happen,
about you, too?
No, I don't.
There I go, see, you've all made your own mind up, so what the hell are you asking me for?
You can't say that.
I'm going to have to hold my hands up here because certain people that I know may watch this podcast, and I'm in a group where we discuss football, and I will put it out there. I have been very negative of Southgate. You know that yourself.
Well, forget your WhatsApp group. I remember we were together just by chance. We went into a pub and it was Southgate's first game in charge ever in a not particularly important game. And you had already decided he was shit. You hated him.
Oh, no, I did.
You were slagging him off. And I think someone was saying, no, let's give him a chance. He might be good. I can't remember who it was. It was only 2 of us.
It's just a random guy.
No, it was me.
Oh, it was you.
There's only 2 of us there.
Oh, yeah.
And fucking, well, look how it turned out. Well, we've not won anything, but still. But, yeah, you are the epitome of a lot of the knee-jerk fans.
Like, literally, like, even if he does something good, I'll be like, yeah, all right, he's done all right there.
No, it'll be the players.
Yeah. But when he does something bad, I'm terrible. Like, he's so boring. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but my main point is to the episode, I am that guy. But I am Phil Jupitus, basically. But in this scene, I like this scene because it's Mike's first press conference. He goes on some like passionate rant, like, why are you so negative? Like, blah, blah, blah. He does the classic, what all Brexit English fans say, we invented this game.
We'll
bring it home. Yeah. And then all the rest of the press start clapping him. So you as the audience member are looking at it like, do you know what? They've got him from Norwich. He could be good, you know.
You never know.
Yeah.
What I did like as well is that he was just like, they asked him, what are your ambitions? He was like, win the World Cup.
Yeah.
And they're a bit like, whoa, what you really think? But to be fair, like, if you're coming in to, I mean, technically any job, but I suppose, if you're Moldova, you're not expecting to win the World Cup. But if you're, a country like England or any fairly big country, footballing nation, if that's not your ambition, you shouldn't really have the job, surely.
Greg Dyke, I always remember his name. He outlined like a 10-year plan before he left as head of the FA, and it was like,
win a major tournament.
You win a major tournament by this year, but the incremental progression was like, get to a quarterfinal, then get to a semi-final. I'd be like, no one gives a fuck about quarterfinals. Like, no one ever remembers I was quarterfinalist in year 2020. Do you know what I mean? It's always the winners, man.
Yeah, but
winners or nothing.
Yeah, but he said progression.
Yeah.
Anyway, fuck football.
Yeah.
This is a film podcast.
Back to Mike Bassett.
So I loved when he's going through his team selections and you start getting introduced to all the characters that make up the team. So you got the big centre-back who's basically kind of like your typical all-out scumbag English centre-back who's just about kicking the shit out of you and just a complete psychopath.
In this film, a lot of the characters are based on, well, not all of them, a lot of them I think are based on kind of like players. So this guy,
or a stereotype about English footballers in that position.
So this guy, I think he's meant to be Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, I thought so too.
They called him Psycho, and
he looks a lot like him as well.
Yeah, and in real life, there's a scene later on in it where he's going out and he's hyped up and he punches the wall. Like, Stuart Pearce done that in real life for a game, so that's based on him.
I love it, and the camera turns to the rest of the team who are just looking like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you see him like chopping down his own team in training, and then it's cut into Mike Bassett. He's like, he's a really good player, But out of 50 games he's played, he's only completed 2 because he keeps getting sent off.
I love as well in the first. So they lose their first game out of their 3 games in which they can qualify for the World Cup. And then as they're going out for the second game, which is away to Poland, he goes out and immediately in the first minute does a horrible foul on a player and then starts kicking him in the head as he's down and gets sent off. So England are down to 10 men for the whole game.
And then you've got the other player who's clearly based on David Beckham, because they deliberately go great crosser of the ball, and he's always on the phone to like his wife. Yeah. And it's clearly meant to be David Beckham, which was pretty funny. So.
It's pretty funny as well because when you're watching parts of this film, 2001 still to me feels like it was 2 minutes ago. Yeah, it's from my childhood. It's funny seeing that is so dated now. Like there's one moment where they go to do analysis of one of their games that they've obviously recorded, and they put in a VHS into this shitty old telly, and they start playing it, and then they realise it cuts to Ground Force, which is this terrible English reality program about gardening. They're like, oh fucking hell, like blah blah blah, and it made me realise like I today as a random idiot have better scouting capabilities just by having YouTube and going on and looking at like games and like player highlights and stuff than like the England manager might have had back in the day in 2001. It's kind of nuts to think.
That Ground Force scene makes me laugh because Mike's gone out and like built his backroom staff in like one of the scenes, and he's
brought in Bradley Walsh as his assistant manager.
Because I keep seeing him now as in context the host of The Chase, which is like a British TV show,
and he's quite a suave. He's less an actor, more kind of like an old traditional all-round entertainer. He's a bit of he can sort of dance a bit, he can kind of tell a joke, he can present, do you know what I mean?
I get that.
And he's quite a smooth character in real life, and it's interesting seeing him as this bumbling yes man who just agrees with absolutely everything that he says. And then his other backroom staff is a second-hand car salesman.
Like that scene in the Ground Force makes me laugh because he's like a really like sexist pig as well. Yeah. Because in this Ground Force program there was this woman and she never used to wear and all the men used to perv over her. And
I don't think they did.
No, they did. Like Charlie Dimmock used to be back in the day when we were young. Like. Don't tell me how I know that, but I just do. And Bradley Walsh is like, the missus has taken over. I think it's changing rooms. And then the really pervy assistant manager goes, "It's Ground Force." Yeah, and he gets it. He's like, when she comes on the screen, he's like, "Whoa!" But because I streamed it on a well-known streaming service, just the quality of the film in general, it was so hard to watch because standard definition. It wasn't HD or anything.
But do you not think? I mean, I'm sure this was a low budget film, but do you not think that was a pretty clear stylistic choice? Like it's a mockumentary, and a big charm of the film that it's selling itself with is England is rubbish. It looks rubbish. We're rubbish at stuff. We're rubbish at football. The FA is run rubbishly. And, Mike Bassett is a bit of a plonker, but he's your hero. So I feel like that is very intentional, as well as probably being technical limitations of the budget.
Yeah, in the midst of all this, we've got the famous TV news correspondent chasing around the England camp throughout the whole film, Martin Bashir, who really...
It was Martin Bashir.
Yeah, it was Martin Bashir. He really blew up for American viewers probably when he interviewed. Do you remember when he interviewed Michael Jackson?
Stayed at the Never Never Ranch.
Yeah, that was
the first time you realised how fucking weird Michael Jackson was.
So he's in it, and he interviewed Bradley Walsh, and it's so funny because everything he says, Bradley Walsh just repeats. So it's like, "Do you think we have a chance?" He's like, "Good chance, I think we have." Yeah. And he's like, "But don't you think other teams are better?" And he's like, "Oh, other teams are a lot better than us." And it just actually does remind me of some of the interviews I see, because the problem is it's not about necessarily expressing yourself. It's about not giving an opinion and not saying the wrong thing, because if you say the wrong thing, you will be crucified.
I mean, we invented Parliament, we abolished slavery, we defeated Hitler. And then we came up with the computer had the singing telegram, the Bessemer smelting process. And we've had people like Wordsworth and Shakespeare and Dickens, you know, once more into the breach, dear friend, once more. And you know what else we done? We invented football and we gave it to the world. Well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring it back.
So everyone is
Media
so
training
middle ground.
101, like just not giving them anything they can take out of context or give any conjecture.
And the best at that is Haaland. His interviews are like, he just doesn't give them anything.
Well, he nukes it. He's got like nearly the Donald Trump approach where ruin everything and then you kind of ruin nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
They draw their final group game, and really they needed to win to guarantee qualifying.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much gutted. You know, there's this lad in a wheelchair who's like giving Mike Bassett the finger in the crowd, and all the fans are booing him and throwing things and saying he's shit. The team all hate him. You're starting to see silhouetted, undercover interviews from anonymous members of the team start to give interviews with this person, basically saying they don't like him. And every week there's like another shadowed out anonymous person. And then it's like 5 or 6 and people are knocking on the door and coming in silhouettes. So you're seeing like the teams turning against him as well. So they go back to the changing rooms, but then they start listening on the radio to the other game that's happening in the group.
Obviously now everyone would just be on their phones, but he comes running along with like a radio to his ear, and I quite like that because it just remembered like back in the day when you listened to the radio.
And there's a big upset. The team that was going to qualify above him has ended up losing to a much worse team, and England end up going just scraping through to the World Cup. So obviously Mike Bassett's loving it, but still everyone, like the press are just like, it's just complete luck that we got here. You're still shit. We don't have a chance. We're going to be shy at the World Cup.
And you kind of see like the type of team it is, because like I wouldn't be celebrating if I lost and another team won on my behalf.
Bullshit, mate. No. You just got to the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be loving it.
But the main thing is England are off to the World Cup in Brazil. Before they go off to Brazil, the team's not really functioning properly, as we can tell. Pressure on their back. So Mike Bassett has a light bulb moment, and he wants to take them to a sports science facility. Now, fast forward into 2022, this is all the rage now. Sports science is the thing that you do now. Sports science, data analytics, all that stuff. But back in when this was made, it'd be quite a new novel thing, wouldn't it? I guess.
Yeah, and something to poke fun at, clearly, because in this, they get there and, you know, they have their different approaches for different players. There's the England star striker who's, you know, still scoring loads of goals at club level, but due to missing a penalty in the European Championships 2 years prior, he's not been able to score a goal for England ever since. He's on a goal drought and it's all psychological. So the German scientist sort of character decides he needs to become one with the ball again and puts him into this giant 20-foot wide football and has him roll about, and you know, tons of German scientists in lab coats are pushing him into a giant fake goal. He's just spinning around like throwing up. It looks like one of those things they stick astronauts in to get them used to giant, really high pressures.
Yeah, it's like one of those, I've seen them, you can like get them on a body of water and like roll around in them. Like, but it's so funny because they're pushing him into goals and like they simulate like crowd noise going shh, and he's like, it cuts to him and he's like flying around, and it was like, I'll score, I promise. Like,
he's like, please let me
and it just makes me laugh because it's always like, if there's ever like anything to do with like crazy science or experiments, I'm sorry, but it's always like crazy Germans doing it.
I don't know why. That is so true. Or not necessarily German, but that sort of like Scandi or Germanic European sort of area.
And then there's another test where they're basically on a treadmill and they've got like the wingers basically
They have like these robot legs.
Yeah, they have like robot animatronic legs, and then they've got like famous goals. So they've got like Maradona's against England where he runs from the halfway line, Pelé, who's the great Brazilian striker, and the third one's this defender that used to play for Liverpool called Mark Lawrenson. That's not known for dribbling at all. He was just like a no-nonsense centre back, and Mike Bassett's like, Mark Lawrenson, and then they're like, oh, we run out of money. It was just funny, but what happens is when they're both on a treadmill, the robotic legs go rogue and just like throw them off, and then like turn it off, and then. Was the sports science facility a good idea? No, because it cuts to everyone in the medical room and Martin Bashir is the narrator saying the sports science facility's been a disaster. 10 first team players are injured before the World Cup.
So as a result, he ends up having to call up some more players.
Yeah.
Like he says at one point, I'm old fashioned, I write my team sheets down on
a cigarette.
The back of a packet of cigarettes, and he hands it to the assistant lady who's like kind of like the admin person. He gives it to the FA. He's looking through the document and he's saying, John Benson and Ryan Hedges, I don't want them on my team. One of them's 46.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never put them down. He's like, it's right here. And it cuts a packet of Benson Hedges cigarettes. So you got these like two old lads like on the team.
And then it cuts to him in a press conference, and good old Phil Dupit's character just wants to like dig him out for anything. And he makes like a funny joke. He's like, who are you going to call up next? Lambert and Butler. And he's like, back to the football. Like, but in the midst of all of this, they keep having a go at him for playing 4-4-2, which is, for a bit of context for it, 4-4-2 is like the oldest, most basic formation that you can do, like 4 at the back, 4 in midfield, 2 up front.
Very English, very
English, yeah. Whereas like it's showing the other teams' formations, like the revolutionary German, like sweeping wing backs, and like he's like, no, we're playing 4-4-2, like
yeah.
And this is why I kind of do like Mike Bassett, because even though things aren't working for him and like he's under all this pressure, he's very resolute and he sticks to his guns.
Well, you say that, but once they actually get to the World Cup, he does change it up. He's trying different formations.
Yeah, he does.
He kind of just makes up a formation at one point in a press conference and then feels like he needs to stick to it.
Yeah.
And it ends up being a disaster. They lose their first game. Or did they draw? I think they draw it to Egypt. And then they lose their second game, 4-0. And it's an absolute disaster. The press are against him. Nothing's working. His son is getting bullied at school. He comes home and he has wanker drawn on his forehead.
Cut his eyebrows off.
It's messing up his relationship with his wife.
His wife's left him.
The World Cup, they're in Brazil for the World Cup, and England fans are out there and they're outside his hotel room chanting Bassett shit. Get the sack, this, that and the other.
This bit actually made me laugh because this is a point I want to touch upon. The English fans are like waiting for them as they're boarding the coach. And it is like what Declan said. It is like every time a football match is on, all football fans become like football experts, and every football fan thinks they're the football expert like over the next person.
You'll be standing there with a fag in one hand and a pint in the other, with a beer belly sticking out, saying, "Do you know what I would have done?" He's super athletes.
And they're shouting him, "You're shit, Bassett," and he just turns around at the coach and was like, "Well, if you're gonna keep doing this, give me something beneficial." And they're like, "Why don't you drop this person back or like switch that?" And it was actually like really good advice. And he just goes, "Fuck off!"
Gets back
which I found quite funny because they perfectly touched upon, everyone thinks they're an expert from their armchair.
And most people that don't even know much about football will probably be aware that England fans have a terrible and warranted reputation for hooliganism overseas.
Yeah.
And they touch on this as well when they're out in Brazil, where Mike Bassett's watching the telly and he's seeing all the England fans rampage through the streets, fighting with police and, scaring women and children who are out eating at restaurants. And he's sort of watching it and going, "This is terrible. This is a disgrace."
How did that?
And then he sort of leans in and goes, "Wait a minute, that's Bassett or wherever, Wackett or whatever his name is.
Hackett, Terry
Hackett, the
Terry.
English centre back." And he's he's charging down a bunch of riot police, and the riot police are like running from him. He's like beating them down and attacking them.
Do you know the scene that made me laugh before? After the sports science thing, they're like, Terry Hackett has a broken jaw. And then they're like singing the national anthem. It's like, and Terry Hackett's managed to play through, and he's like got all metal teeth, and he's like, God save Margaret.
His jaw's completely fused shut, and he's like, trying to mumble the words.
Yeah, and then you see him like jumping, fighting police officers in this scene, and it cuts to Mike Bassett on the phone to his wife in a hotel. He's like, yeah, 2 broken legs, broken arm. Yeah, they say the police officers will pull through. No, he's totally fine. He got away, but he might go away for 12 months, and it just really made me laugh.
It was kind of a tradition back in the day to have the England team and coach go and record a song for the World Cup or whatever tournament they were going to. I wish they'd bring that back because that was brilliant back in the day. But I love when they go and do it with Atomic Kitten, and for some reason Keith Allen.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
And they're recording the song. It was quite a tune actually. I quite liked it.
Yeah, it just goes on your head, son, not up your head, son.
Yes, on your head, son, not up your head, son.
Yeah,
on your
yeah,
head,
yeah,
son,
yeah.
not up your head, son.
In Brazil. It's on your head, son, not off your head, son. It's on your head, son, not off your head, son.
We won't get no satisfaction from the final score.
But anyway, so we get to the final game in England's group match in the World Cup. If they don't win, they don't get through to the next round, which is when it becomes knockouts. And it's against England's old foe, Argentina. So if you know anything about war history, you kind of understand why in recent years, Argentina's been a bit of a nemesis for England. You know, obviously not really politically so much anymore, but that carries on. You know, in football, things last forever. Nothing's ever forgiven.
Oh no, yeah, we hate them. They have.
Also, the fact that Maradona famously he handballed the ball in order to score a goal and ultimately knock England out of a World Cup. Who got known as Hand of God, and brilliantly that gets reversed, and you get kind of like a beautiful karma in how they beat Argentina in the final match, as they have this maverick player who is essentially a play on a real-life person called Paul Gascoigne, who was an absolute wonderful footballer, brilliant Geordie, guy from Newcastle. Geordies, as they're known as, are they're the funnest people.
Yeah,
they're brilliant. Yeah. They're just the best crack. They're hilarious. Real character in real life, real drinker and drug addict, and ultimately, you know, now unfortunately a bit of a mess. Quite sad.
Yeah.
But at the time, he was, you know, he was just a hilarious persona, and he is the guy that's constantly getting dropped because he's shagging a hooker in Brazil at one point who turns out to be a man, and he wakes the whole England team up the night before a game. So he's constantly getting dropped, but he's just too talented to keep out of the game for long, so he always ends up getting started the next game or subs back in, and he subs him in for the last 10 minutes of the England-Argentina game. It's 0-0, and he ends up with the most blatant handball, basically just throwing it into the back of the net.
Yeah.
But the ref gives it. There was no VAR back then, so the goal stands, and England go through to the next round. And I was a bit disappointed that you don't really get to see the aftermath then. You see, they just kind of let you know that they beat France and then another country and end up, I think, going out in the quarterfinals.
No, I think it was semis. They got to the
semi-finals, and they get knocked out. And I was a bit disappointed, first of all, that I didn't get to see more of them playing and what happened, but also the fact that they didn't actually go on and win the World Cup. But kind of like the original Rocky movie. I know Rocky was always the winner forever after that, but in the original Rocky movie, the fact that he didn't actually beat Apollo Creed, but he went the distance with him, and that was enough. That was the dream for that sort of supposed journeyman. And it kind of makes sense as well, where it's beautiful that it's not about him doing the impossible and winning. It was about that, kind of like in recent times where Southgate didn't win, but he gave, English fans not even something to be proud of again, but enjoyment. You get a couple of weeks of loving the party, of great vibes back home. It becomes a wonderful carnival atmosphere when things are going well and you get a run in a tournament. And the fact that he was able to do that. And as he's coming back on the plane and he's saying, Martin Bashir's interviewing him and saying, you should be proud of what you've done. And he's saying, no, ultimately I failed. I wanted to win the World Cup. That was really my ambition. And he gets off the plane and his wife and kids are there and all the England fans are there and they're cheering his name and he gets a hero's welcome home. And you're like, that's brilliant. He didn't go all the way, but he still won the public round and he won.
Yeah, I did like it, Declan. I did like that. I'd like for them to win the World Cup would have ruined it a bit for me. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? I would have been there for that as well. I wanted him to win it at that point. I was like, come on, Mike Bassett.
Yeah, I guess so, but like in real life, it would never happen. So,
and in a film with a lot of surreal moments, it was actually surprisingly a nice grounded ending.
You really can get behind Mike and like all the like he's such a little working class guy, and he keeps quoting like Kipling the poet of like you'll be a man's son, which is stitched as Mason.
that's another like the few moments where they do get a bit serious, and it's only ever so serious, and it's only really with his character. But when he's down and out, and it's just before their last game against Argentina where they finally have the turnaround during the World Cup, and he's in that press conference and he quotes the whole poem, and he says it all out loud, and then he finishes it off with "We're gonna play 4-4-2."
And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Ladies and gentlemen, England will be playing 4-4-2.
And you're just like, yes, Mike.
That was really...
It was brilliant.
To be fair, that was quite stirring.
I got like a tingle down my spine just saying it just then.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
It was great. And I just love, there's so many great moments in it. The fact that they got Pelé in to do not just one cameo, but he features about 3 times.
Yeah, he does.
There's such a great scene where during the World Cup run, Mike Bassett's trying to blow off some steam, so the players convince him to get drunk, and it cuts to him absolutely hammered in his hotel room going crazy, and Pelé's walking through with a French reporter, and he's talking about how football, the World Cup, everyone's equal and it's beautiful and it brings all the nations of the world together. And then they walk into the room where all the England players and squad and managers and coaches are drunk and up on the tables and singing and chanting. And he goes, "Oh no, it's the English, let's get out of here."
Yeah.
And they run off.
And the fact they got him to do that is just hilarious.
Oh, it's brilliant, man. Yeah, poor Pelé's actually in hospital at the minute.
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's on palliative care now because apparently he's been ill for a while, I guess. But you just don't. I guess the family just don't want to say it, and like,
Well, if he's still lucid, then fingers crossed. If Brazil do go on to win it,
for him,
he's around and he gets to see it, and that'll be a nice swan song, maybe.
Well, how long's left of the World Cup?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. I hope for him. I pray.
Yeah, that's sad. But he's brilliant in this, and it's just wonderful. It's so many memorable moments. They really hit every note where they capture the absurdity and the ridiculousness, hopes and ultimately lows and disappointments of being an England football fan. Every time you build yourself up for maybe we can do it, we got a chance, we can do it, or no we can't, or people are saying that we're going to be shy, but you still, even if you're like we don't have a chance and you don't go to the pub, you say you're not going to be watching it, you'll put it on and you'll cross your fingers and hope and maybe we can do it. And they never do, and they never will. And that's why the beauty of like one thing I do want to say is that It's Coming Home song, foreign fans seem to not get it. I think they find it kind of arrogant and annoying.
Oh, they hate it.
But they misunderstand what that song's about. Listen to the lyrics. The whole song is about the fact that England always crumbles under the pressure, and the England fans always get excited but always get disappointed. That's what the whole song's about. Like, they're missing the whole point, and it's just a banger. Like, how can you not like
Say
it?
that thing about like going to the pub, not going to the pub. Me and Declan went to the same pub. Was it the last World Cup?
The last World Cup, yeah.
We had a little routine of going to exactly the same pub,
Fishmonger's Arms,
standing in exactly the same spot. And the one time I didn't go, or we both couldn't go for whatever reason, that's the game we lost.
Yeah.
And I just really think it's because we didn't go to the pub.
No, we went to the pub. We went to the other part of the pub. Because a lot of our friends were in that part, and we kind of thought this is silly. Like superstitions aren't real.
You didn't stay in the correct spot,
and then we fucked it and we lost.
And
that's obviously why we lost.
I have really good memories of that pub, apart from when we scored the winning penalty against, was it Colombia?
It was pandemonium.
I had my Ray-Bans.
I remember people throwing pints in each other's faces.
Yeah.
The barman started letting people dance on the bar and dance on the pool table and throwing drinks everywhere. And it was just brilliant. And, like, I don't give a fuck that we didn't win it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a downward moment and sad day. And, you know, that would bring a lot of joy to people around the world. Imagining a lot of England fans unhappy.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. Like, it just the fun of when it's going well is just beautiful. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's just like, they really say, like, football unites the world and the beautiful game. And
I don't think it does. I think it makes people hate each other. But it's great. It's the best.
I mean, especially this World Cup has its criticisms for right reasons. But in terms of the actual sporting aspect of it, it's been fantastic.
I mean,
so far.
In certain ways, it's been one of the best World Cups ever so far because it's been one of the most even. You're seeing countries from East Asia and the Middle East, you know, top their groups and go through and knock out European or South American teams. And it's great. It's great to see, like, it's being a bit more even and on a bit more even kill. But yeah, Mike Bassett, England manager, what a fucking film. Perfectly captures everything about the absurdity of the England job. Mission Impossible, as it used to be called.
Yeah. And always play 4-4 fucking
4-4 fucking 2.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.